Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your co-host, Mr. Cornel Drummer, from the Let's Talk About It. My host, Mrs. Shanette Johnson, he will be, she's off tonight, you know what I'm saying, for various reasons, but she might be joining us sometime soon tonight. Okay, and thank you for joining us again, like I say, for another episode of Let's Talk About It. Tonight we're going to be revisiting this situation of a case that's here in the state of Texas of the Camilo Anthony case where this individual is being charged with intentionally and knowingly causing the death of an individual. Okay, and tonight we're going to shed light on newly discovered developments in the case to, show that there's more going on behind the scenes in this case than what's being actually known to the public. And that, this little guy, Camilo Anthony, is being caught up in a realm of, judicial biasness, judicial corruption. So tonight, please join us because we're going to have a good show tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and shed light on what I know more about the situation. And hopefully we can get to the bottom of this and see if we can get the public more involved into asking that this case be dismissed. Okay, from the offset of this case, this individual, Mr. Camilo Anthony, he went to a track meet, okay? And, he had a right to be there, okay? So because he did have a right to be there, he was there, because it was raining and he got out the rain. And some other individuals were under the same the tent that, Mr. Camilo was under. And somehow or another, an individual who's familiar with him saw him up under the tent. And somehow there's indications of an exchange of words, but we don't know that for sure. But this individual went and got some friends of his who are familiar with Mr. Camilo Anthony. And about 7 of them came and surrounded Mr. Camilo Anthony, and words exchanged, and Mr. Camilo Anthony ended up, pulling out what they classify as a poker or something to that nature. And he ended up stabbing one of the guys. And this individual has, lost his life behind this incident. So now, after the fact, the district attorney's office and the family of the victim is claiming that Camilo Anthony intentionally and knowingly caused the death of their son. So now they have went out in the public and have requested for GoFundMe pages and donations, things of this nature, to try to raise this to the fact that Camilo Anthony should be charged with a criminal offense of intentionally and knowingly causing the death of an individual, and that their son should be classified as a hero, someone who was a victim of an attack. Well, that's not actually really the truth behind what's going on. The issue is that Camilo Anthony had a right to be there, and that these individuals came to attack him. And when they did, he defended himself. And by law, you have a right to do that. So now, here it is, the district attorney's office gets the case, and the case goes immediately to a grand jury. And a grand jury filed a true bill indictment charging him with the offense of intentionally and knowingly. So now, the case is set to go to a jury trial. Now, since this time, there has been new development, issues coming out that Mr. Camilo and his defense team have not processed emotions of not saying that they didn't to dismiss this case based upon a video showing that he was defending himself. But the victim's family has ties to the district attorney's office and the judicial system over there in that county. Whereas pictures have surfaced of his family, the victim's family, taking pictures with the district attorney's office, the district attorneys, and the judges in this county prior to this incident, indicating that some type of a relationship of the family of the victim to the district attorney's office. So now this raises a question about the integrity of this process by the district attorney's office. Is Mr. Camilo Anthony being given a fair shake in this county? And if going forward, will he receive a fair trial in this county? Well, based upon this fact that these pictures have been showing judicial connections, the relationships of the district attorney and the family of the victim, the answer to that question is no. And now, because this has happened, now this raises a question of prosecutable misconduct. Because the district attorney's office and the judges in that county know that they have a relationship with the victim's family. And because of this, this case should not be processed in their county, and that they should have recused themselves from even participating in the process of judicial procedures in this case. So as of right now, the issue with the case is that this case should be dismissed based upon, number one, judicial impartiality, because that raises the question because of the relationship of the district attorney's office and the victim's family as to whether or not this case was rushed to a grand jury. So that also raises the question about the makeup of the grand jury. Or did this case even go to a grand jury?
Well, I got something to say because I've been listening to a lot of these people on these panels that have been having different discussions. So the grand jury was picked in January. So there was no particular grand jury picked directly for this case. So the grand jury was picked even before this case happened. So is that normal? Because we was someone actually read it and I recorded it. I posted it on my TikTok. But I recorded this and they showed the document and it shows that the grand jury was picked in January. This case did not happen until April. So is the grand jury just a grand jury around the board or do they pick grand juries for each case?
Okay. Mind yourself, we have 12 months in a year. Each grand jury is picked from January and June. 6 months of a grand jury process, okay? So now that grand jury is the January term of the grand jury until the end of the last month of May before we go to June. Then you go with another grand jury in June. So now the district attorney in this case, it happened in May. In April. So May is the following month. So now, if that is the case, then how did it take 80-something days from April for this case to get indicted? Because that would be going to the June grand jury. Therefore, the January term of the grand jury don't have jurisdiction to indict Mr. Camilo Anthony because they do not have a term. So you see what that means? So how did Mr. Camilo Anthony get indicted from the January term of the grand jury as opposed to the June term? Because his case did happen in January. But they say it took 80-something days after the incident for him to get indicted. That would mean that this case has lingered into the June term of the grand jury. Therefore, then it would not be good because the grand jury don't have jurisdiction to indict him. So that would be a question to me: did the case even go to a grand jury? Don't that make any sense, ma'am?
I'm not a court person. I don't know a lot about the judicial system.
Okay. Okay. In state of Texas, we call terms like quarters, 3, 6, 9, 12. Over here we have 2 quarters grand jury, which is 6 months of a term. Every grand jury sits for 6 months. January term, January to May, from June to December. Okay? So with that, that's the issue of the grand jury. If an indictment or a case happened within the January term of the grand jury, it would say yes, the January term of the grand jury. Okay? This case happened within that term. So now, here it is. If this case happened in April, which is 3 months from January, now how is it going to take them to indict the Camilo Anthony?
It took them 80 something days to indict. That's how long it took. I think it was 81 days.
Okay, so if it took 81 days, okay, was
The
that
incident happened in April. They have already indicted him. The indictment came down a couple of weeks ago.
okay, a couple of weeks ago? So that would mean that this is July. June was last month. Okay, so now he's in the June term of the grand jury then. Okay, which is this grand jury process from June to December. So
Okay.
now the question to
So
me
what does
would
that
be
mean?
this.
What does that mean? Because the indictment has already came down, so that means it came down from the other grand jury, the one that was picked back in January. So what does that mean now?
Okay, that's what I'm pointing out to you, ma'am. That's not possible because his case was indicted by the June term, which is 80 something days from the time that he committed the offense. The offense was committed in April.
So what does that mean? Because you're talking to someone that does not know. So explain that to me so that I can understand it. Because this is what's happening, Cornell. You have all these people that know the law, and they're going, they're reading these penal codes, they're reading the laws, and then you got a lot of people that are not in the state of Texas. You got people from Virginia, you got people from all over that's looking at this case. They're sitting on these different panels, and they're giving their different verdicts. We have a lot of white tea people that is ready to throw Carmelo Anthony under the bus. They have rendered this man guilty, and regardless of what they have seen, there's a video, people have gone to see the video. There's a lady that even went there the other day, and she was in there recording, and we're asking for her to be prosecuted so she can go to jail because she's trying to taint the jury. And this is what they're doing. They're passing off all these relics and all these different things that is not lining up with what you see and what the law says. If we go by the law, this baby is innocent. He stood his ground. But because people have said what they wanted to say, one of the people that was there, the twin to the deceased person, he was able to leave with his evidence on him because he was right there, supposedly blood all over him. This baby was able to leave, go home, change his clothes, come up with whatever story him and his dad and his mom are gonna decide what he gonna say, and then he went back, and then he was able to make statements. So this is what's happening. This is so many things that went wrong from the beginning to it just it's sad. But then you got so many grown people that have come up with their own logics, and it's they making it about something that it wasn't. They say that this baby planned, that he knew what he was gonna do from the time he left his house. How do you know that? They haven't even determined that the poker belonged to him. They're going by what somebody said, and I can believe from what people have said. I've listened to plenty of these lives, listen to plenty of people that say they watched the video, and I listen to what they're saying. The ones that support Carmelo Anthony, all of them say the same thing. And no, they did not go at the same time. So it's not like they plotting and planning. Some of these people don't even know each other, but yet they say the same thing. They said there were 7 people that walked up briskly. Some of them even was jogging to catch up with the people that was in front of them. They said the 4 people walked up to Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony sitting down on a bleacher. They said the 4 people walked up to him, 3 going, and 4 walked up to him. One got down in his face. Remind you, he's sitting down. So one got down in his face. The other one surrounded him. But everybody say, why didn't he leave? He had the opportunity to leave. If somebody in your face and somebody surrounding you, how could you leave? And then my thing too was, honestly, people don't like it, but I believe that the brother was trying to poke Carmelo and poked his brother by mistake. Hmm. Because if you go and you look at a lot of the stuff that's happening, then not only that, we waiting on toxology report. Because why they ain't got the toxology report? Because let it be told, they was at the middle school getting geeked up. They was over there getting geeked up.
Okay, ma'am. Oh, so now to the query issue. Again, we have 2 terms, which is January term and June June term.
Okay.
Now, this is the only way in the state of Texas that we can be indicted and prosecuted for a crime. So that means that if say for instance the January term already started, and my case happened in April, they have to take evidence to that grand jury, and that grand jury got to have an indictment on me before the end of June. I mean, before the end of May. Why? Because the next term grand jury starts in June. So if they don't have me indicted within that term of the grand jury, then they would have to process and get an extension and have my case sent to the next term of the grand jury. Because my indictment cannot say the January term of the grand jury. Because my case did happen during that term, but I can't be indicted at the term because that indictment term has passed, it elapsed in May. And I'm going into another grand jury, which means that this is a whole nother total different people coming in to review the evidence.
Well, again, I state again from the paper that the guy showed on the TikTok live on yesterday. It said the grand jury was comprised in January. He read it. I got it on video. So it ain't nothing that I'm making up. It is something that is actual. At least by their proof in their paper, unless they're making it up, it says that January. So what you're saying, if if that is true, then that indictment is no good.
Yes, ma'am. That indictment won't be no good because it takes a time to investigate a criminal murder case, criminal ma'am. It's not just no. You can't just take and commit a crime today, and here I am indicted tomorrow. You can't do that because you have other cases before that case that has to be indicted by a grand jury.
And that's why they said it was taking so long. That's why they said it took those 80 something days for them to get there. I think they said 81 days to be exact. I think that's why they say it took them 81 days to even get that indictment because there were other cases in front of that.
Okay, so now we're going to do this then. We're going to question the evidence. We're going to question the video. Because if this video is showing...
They didn't submit the video. It was no video submitted. They only went off the police report. And the police report... well, not even it's not even a police report. It is the arrest record. That's all it is. It's a arrest report, whatever, and it's just a couple of statements from some of them. They don't even have the people because I think they confiscated phones afterwards, and they've done other interviews, but none of that was included. Like I said, the DA and the dad is friends. The judge and the dad is friends. So this is what you got going on. So, like I say, I believe that they did a favor for a favor because if you look at when Camilo was supposed to go to court, the day Camilo go to court is the day after the election for DA. A prosecutor or whatever election is coming. I think it's the prosecutor that is coming up for election. Maybe one of them is coming up for election, and the election is going to be held the day before Camilo goes to court.
Okay. So now that's very unique right there because if we got a video showing that this boy committed an incident of self-defense, how is it that the district attorney's office do not have that information?
I'm sure they have access to the same videos because this is public knowledge. That's how everybody's getting to go and look at this because it is public records. So that's how they having to fill out documents and they can go and look at it. But they're only allowing them, now remind you, this was at a stadium. So there's multiple videos, but they're only allowing the public to see that one video. But like I've been telling everybody, Cornel, and you know this because you are currently incarcerated. If follow any high profile case And we'll talk about Chris Brown and Rihanna. Do you remember when he abused that girl? How it was all over the news, how it was just everywhere,
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
and they
ma'am.
would not let it rest. If Carmelo Anthony was guilty, if these people truly had something on this boy, don't you think they would be ragging him all over the news? They would be no had him because that's what they do to us. We know that. It ain't no
Yes,
secret.
ma'am.
And then they
Yes,
want to
ma'am.
make it about. They don't want it to be about a black a BKL and a YT, but we all know what it's about. Just like what they're doing right now. I see a case where there was a commissioner, elected government official, that the white judge wanted to talk to her any kind of way and discredit her. This is what they do. They don't want us to be right. But what's gonna happen is because too many people watching this case. Can't be wiped under the rug, and it ain't gonna come out the way everybody wanting it to come out. Because I feel like the hunter and those other two boys, they need to be charged as well. If they want somebody to charge for the unaliving of Austin, it need to be those that caused it. Because if they want to say, if Carmelo had kept his hands to himself, if they hadn't been bullies, if they hadn't come up in that tent the way they came up in that tent thinking they ran something, then he would be here right now.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so ma'am, here it is. So if they are allowing people to go and file an application to review this particular video, and this particular video is raising opinions from both sides. Some people are saying that the video shows that he's guilty. Some saying it shows he's innocent. Well, if the district attorney's office got access to that video,
Everybody got access to it.
okay, but the grand jury got to have access to that video. That video right
But why
there
wouldn't
has
they have
to
to
go to the
have?
grand
Why
jury.
wouldn't they have access to the video? If they wanted access to the video, it was they after the prosecutor or whoever was supposed to present the evidence, right?
Okay, that's a good point. Now, the district attorney is supposed to present whatever evidence he feels is necessary for his case. And if he withheld that particular evidence from the grand jury, then he withheld material evidence from the grand jury that can shed a different light on this case toward the grand jury's indictment. So what we're going to claim, we're saying that that's prosecutorial misconduct. That's judicial impartiality. What he's doing is deceiving the grand jury because he's withholding the material evidence from that grand jury who is governed by law to indict an individual based upon facts. This case has to be governed by the facts, not because of the district attorney's standing of being able
Well,
to come up for re-election.
Cornel, they feel like the facts is those falsified documents, those documents, just like you know for yourself. You know what happened in your case. So just think about how they falsified documents. So just know what they're doing. These people have come up with a report, a arrest report. They have put their narrative in there because they took the report from Austin, not Austin, from Austin's brother Hunter, and a couple of other people that was there. Of course, those people say what they wanted to say in defense of what was going on, because if the truth be told, they probably could be charged too. So of course they're gonna defend themselves.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So now the public got the power right now because it's obvious that the Camilo Anthony's attorney now are waiting for some reason or miracle or something to this nature to let this case go to a jury. And why, I have no earthly idea. But this case should not still be standing. Why? Because, ma'am, this case is being governed by political propaganda now. And with that, Camilo Anthony's attorney and them know that this case cannot stand and it should not be indicted under these circumstances. So I am questioning why they have not filed a motion to dismiss. Because if the public sees this video and the public got all this information out there about the video, then the attorneys have to have the same information. So why is it that they have not taken that video to the DA and asked the DA to reconsider this case and to have that indictment dismissed? They got that power,
Not
man.
only that, they need to have the prosecutor and the judge removed. Judge Roach need to be removed because he
Okay.
knows their Metcalf family. Those kids grew up with them.
And you're right. You're absolutely right, ma'am. So if the lawyers in Camilo Anthony's case is not doing it, the public got to do it. The public got to raise their voice and ask that the conduct committee on judicial conduct step into this case and have that judge dismissed and contact the district attorneys association and tell them that they want this district attorney removed off this case and we want a special prosecutor on this case and for this case to be dismissed. That's where we're at. That's exactly where we're at because the facts are not lining up to the law, ma'am. And the district attorney in this case, he's not going to do that. Why? Because he's a friend of the victim's father. So what we're asking for is for the judge to be removed and recused from this case because of judicial impartiality. And we're asking for the district attorney to be taken off of this case because pictures have revolved showing that he got relationships with the victim's family. So now he has to come off the case. He cannot see the case. So now I don't know why Mr. Camilo Anthony and family have not done none of that. That don't make no sense. That's too long. Because soon that information came out automatically, the district attorney in this case supposed to make a public statement, a press release showing that he has to recuse himself from this case because of a conflict of interest. The district attorney's office got to do that. He got to notify the public because the public is the people. And because the public is the people, the public deserves to know the truth, ma'am. That he took pictures with this boy's father, with this boy's family, and that here it is, they got a relationship. So now, not only do that question his conflict of interest, it also questions the indictment. So now we're asking not only for him to be dismissed, we're asking for the indictment to be dismissed as of right now. If they choose to come back and re-indict because the case don't have a statute of limitation, that's fine. But as of right now, we want that indictment taken off the table. Because now we'll get a chance to present the video and other video cameras and whatever been confiscated to show the truth to this case to another grand jury. Because that grand jury that indicted him, that's a tainted grand jury, ma'am. So if the public is listening to this podcast tonight, I'm asking for you to stand up and have your voices heard and demand for the district attorney in that county to be taken off this case due to a conflict of interest because of the fact that pictures have surfaced of him having a relationship with the victim family. And the same way with the judge, that he be taken off this case due to judicial impartiality because he is aware of the pictures of the district attorney and the victim's family. Therefore, that makes him impartial, and he cannot sit on this case. So that's what we're asking for, and for the indictment in this case to be dismissed because the indictment is tainted by judicial impartiality. That's the case right here tonight. So I will ask that you reviewing this video tonight to be able to, the podcast tonight, to be able to tap in and have your voices heard. So thank you, and I appreciate you for listening in tonight on Let's Talk About It, and we will be, continuing this episode, and very much, ma'am, for joining in, and like I said, I appreciate you. Okay?
All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, y'all have a good night.